It was quite a warm, sunny morning in March. I woke up around 5:30 in the morning and immediately headed to the car. I drove over to Steve, Frank, Colin, and Chad's houses and picked everyone up. The reason being is because that day, we're headed down to Washington, D.C. for the Cherry Blossom Festival. The cherry blossoms bloomed early that year due to the warmer than usual weather, and so we figured it'd be the perfect way to spend a Saturday in March. Anyway, I picked up everyone else, and we had one more person to pick up still, Chad. We cruised our way on over to the Holly Hills neighborhood and parked outside Chad's house. We beeped the horn a few times, not a lot because we didn't want to wake up any neighbors, but surprisingly, Chad actually came out right away. Usually, he's a very deep sleeper and is not an early riser. So Chad came out to the car, but it's kind of weird. Obviously, he was all groggy and barely alive due to how sleepy he was. But the weird part was that his perfect swoosh was more perfect than ever. It was blonde and had Old Spice hair gel in it. It was almost like he had slept with the perfect swoosh and that it never got ruined. He was looking fresh as always, muscular too.
Ew! Ready for the blossom spring? These trees are blossoming in spring, just as we are about to blossom into the gates,
said Chad. It's kind of obvious that Chad was sleepy, as what he was saying made no sense at all.
Man, let's quit wasting time and get our ass down to DCG. We can hit the club and shit,
said Steve. Steve, we're not going down there for the club. We're going down there just to look at the blossoms. Maybe we'll go to the Lincoln Memorial or something too, Colin mentioned. We hit the road next, but first we needed breakfast. We pulled up to a local 7-Eleven. It was right across from the local Wilkdale High School, and it was an all-signature one from our past. We all got different items. Colin and I got some energy drinks along with some protein bars. Chad made himself a protein shake as usual. Steve got himself an ultra-large size bag of Old Trapper's beef jerky. And finally, Frank decided to get a hoagie roll from the little machine, which looked disgusting. Anyway, after 7-Eleven, we got back on the highway, and within an hour, we were entering the D.C. area, as you could see the Potomac River and the Washington Monument off in the distance.
Ho, 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 man. It be club time, G,
said Steve.
Steve, can we go to a food truck first?
Frank asked. Of course, Frank, of all people, will always be one wanting to go to a food truck. DC that time of year is always known and infamous for its hundreds and vast array of junky food truck options with hot dogs, burgers, weird little food that's all greasy. You know what I mean. Anyway, parking was a nightmare. It was only 7 a.m., but people were taking this very seriously. Apparently the festival had all sorts of music and kites and everything, so it was very, very crowded. I kid you not, it took like 30 minutes until we finally found a tight parallel parking space along the side of a museum. We parked there and stepped outside. It's kind of breezy out that day, not gonna lie, but it was supposed to warm up that day to around 70 degrees, which would be nice. Chad put on his shades for extra cool points and began walking into the main cherry blossom area by the lake.
Okay, bro, before these cherry blossoms though, I say we take Frank Man's advice and hit up a nice food truck, said Chad.
Fine by me, man,
said Steve. Frank piped. Anyway, it's kind of contradictory because on our way to the food truck, we ended up having to walk through the cherry blossoms anyway, which is what our initial plan was. Now, they were pretty cool. They were in full bloom and looked like something straight out of a movie. But you know, I'm not really into that fairy tale stuff anyway. It was crowded, and we made our way through those crowds until eventually we found it, the food truck area. There really were hundreds and hundreds of food trucks. We had everything from Chinese food, burger stands, homemade french fries. You name it, there was everything. Hey, what do you guys want to eat? I asked.
Man, I want hot dogs, Chief,
said Steve. Why do you want hot dogs so bad, Steve? It's not like they're that good.
Trust me, man, these hot dogs food trucks are lit. And besides, if we hitting up the club later, then I gotta be getting my weenie size on,
said Steve. Ugh, I cringed when Steve said that. A shiver ran up my spine as well. Reason being is because neither of us really wanted to be mentioning anything that involves weenies, if you know what I mean. Anyway, we walked around the food truck area a little bit longer, down one random street, until we found one food truck separated from all the rest. It was down a dark alleyway and looked to be boarded up.
Over here, Chief,
said Steve. I had no idea why Steve wanted to go to that one food truck in particular, but I guess it's because of the sign, or the name, Nathan's Weenies on it. Now, I know there's already something called Nathan's Hot Dogs, but I never heard of Nathan's Weenies. I guess Steve really did want to get his weenie size on for the club, though. That shit's kind of weird. Anyway, we headed on over to Nathan's Weenies. Colin and I have our guards sky high. We do not want anything to do with this sketchy food truck anyway. But just then, the food truck driver opened up the window as it appeared he was just opening up for the day.
Good morning, boys,
he said. Oh, no, Colin exclaimed. It was the creepy clerk, the same guy from the Dollar Tree Dichet. He wore a green denim jacket, had long greasy hair, and wore the all-signature pair of 80s style gym trainers. What are you doing here? I demanded.
Oh, you know, boys, it's quite a nice weekend now, and I just had to come down to D.C. and open up my own weenie business. Our special boys coming down from fine this Saturday. You know, weenies are always a family-friendly treat for fine days at the Cherry Blossoms, boys,
the creepy clerk said. What the fuck do you mean your weenie business? No one likes your weenies, I said.
Oh, don't be so scrutinizing now, boys. Always give it a shot. I'll tell you boys what, I can whip you all up a fresh batch. I'm just opening for the day. You know, it'll be homemade. I can make them myself. If you boys want, y'all come into the truck. I can show you how it's done, you know,
the creepy clerk said, giving us a creepy wink.
Man, that sounds lit. Let's go,
said Steve. I had no idea why Steve said this, as the creepy clerk really isn't someone you should be associating with, especially getting into his weird food truck / van. Anyway, we had no choice but to follow Steve inside, as there was no way we were letting him go inside the sketchy van all by himself with the creepy clerk of all people. Anyway, we were immediately alarmed when we stepped inside of that food van. There were a bunch of deep fryers, as well as a bunch of weird pills lying around, and dirty toys that I'm not going to mention. I'm trying to keep this story PG-13 after all.
Now, let's make some weenies, boys,
the creepy clerk said. The creepy clerk then reached into his chest, or into a chest, and pulled out some weenies. He put them in a deep fryer, though instead of frying them in vegetable oil or butter like usual, he fries them in something else.
Oh, yes, that is motor oil, boys.
The fuck do you mean frying these in motor oil for? Colin asked.
Oh, you want to try them now, boys? As, they make you go vroom vroom in the bedroom.
Okay, fuck no, I said. We turned around, booking it out of the van. The creepy clerk was now an Avengers-level threat. We had to get away from him and fast.
Come on now, boys. Kick it up now. I lock the doors,
the creepy clerk said. It was true. The creepy clerk had locked the doors behind him, and now we were trapped inside of Nathan's Weenies. Let us go, you bitch, I said, but it was too late. The creepy clerk had already buckled up and was now driving down the street. It wasn't a long drive. He drove all the way down to where the Washington Monument was, and through a crowd of people. He wasn't even on the road anymore, rather driving through the grass. People were screaming as they ran out of the way.
Oh, yes. Plenty of customers here, boys. Now, I'll show you how some business tips and tricks. If you want to take things down below the belt, if you know what I mean.
We then knew that we had to get away from that dude, and fast. We bust out of Nathan's Weenies trailer using pure force, as the locks weren't that difficult to break. The creepy clerk tried to chase us out, but he is a potbelly. And he isn't that fast.
Oh, come on, boys. I'm just trying to have a fun time. You already know that,
he said. But we don't care. We continued running through the festival area. There was a little bunch of bands with they were playing music with drums, guitars, of course, the kites as well, and the cherry blossoms, not to mention. 5 minutes later, we made it to the little area where the Washington Monument stood, and we then hear people start screaming. Everyone screams as they run out of the way, and at first we're very confused as to why everyone's screaming. We think the creepy clerk is coming after them in Nathan's weenies, but no. It turned out to be someone else. Though, I wouldn't say it was a good thing, though, because, that person was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. I had no idea how he knew we'd be in D.C. that day. Some told me he's always in secret ties with the creepy clerk and knew that we'd be down there.
What a nice boys. What a nice day to see boys down here today. I must say,
Herbert exclaimed. Herbert absolutely made no sense at all. He looked crazy too. He wore a Scottish kilt with knee-high socks. And knee-high boots too, exposing chubby thighs. His potbelly was the size of a refrigerator, and he wore a button-up flannel shirt. His headpiece was the weirdest of all. It was like a neon pink hat with peacock spokes on it, but were little flutes that stuck up 5 feet and took up a ton of space, like big spikes on his head. Whenever he walked, the wind would sift through these flute spokes on his head, making a sort of weird, flute sound.
Hey boys, how do you like the new fit?
Herbert inquired. Herbert, what the fuck are you doing here? How'd you know we'd be in D.C.?
My buddy, the creepy clerk, messaged me on Instagram. He said, you boys forget your weenies.
Just then, we heard the noise of an automobile coming from the distance behind us. The sound was faint at first, but was growing louder, and louder. But that's when we realized it wasn't getting louder, rather it was getting closer. We spun our heads around, and pits form in our stomachs. We see the creepy clerk moving Nathan's weenies toward us. Oh shit, run, Colin says. Wait up, Bruce. I don't like doing this. The gains don't look cardio, but in this circumstance, I think running outweighs the risk. Man, Chad must have still been groggy or something, or high for all I know. I don't know what was up with him that day, but we didn't have time to worry about Chad. We ran. 5 minutes later, we had ran and made it down to the cherry blossom area by the lake. No, we weren't safe yet. No, as Herbert was right on our tail. Obviously, he wasn't running due to how obese he is. He was too fat. Rather, he was now riding a unicycle.
You can't outsmart me, boys,
Herbert said. Just then, Herbert does the unimaginable. He hops off the unicycle, lands in the crab pose, and then stands on the edge of the walkway, right by the water, and does a belly flop. The splash was so big that it drenched us all. We were covered in the muddy lake water by the Washington Monument. Everyone else in the vicinity got soaked as well. Colin got out his phone and called the police. 5 minutes later, the police arrived, and Herbert, along with the creepy clerk, were taken away. But there was a catch. Apparently, Nathan's Weenies was never at an actual business or designated food truck in the first place. Rather, the creepy clerk had somehow gotten a minivan, or not a minivan, more like a truck van, if that's what you want to call it, and was running some sort of secret little business. That's, what I'm going to call it there, it's kind of dirty. I don't want to go into much detail about it, but let's just say that the creepy clerk was arrested and taken away, along with Herbert. Herbert was too. But yeah, we all went home traumatized that day. Be a while before we headed on back to DC again. That then concludes the DC Dashyman.